It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Virginia Military Academy Institution head track and field / cross country coach, Coach David Scott. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, Brandon. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in track and field?
It started with having good coaches myself. It started off with Bruce Patrick at Mount Vernon football and Mark Bendorf as my throws coach. Continued on to college with Michael Bozeman, Brigadier General Michael Bozeman in college. And I was working as a defense contractor, and Coach Mark Bendorf got the head football coaching job at Robinson, and asked me if I wanted to help him coach as well as coach track and field like he did. And I took the opportunity.
What was it like going to VMI to compete as a track and field athlete for throwing?
It was funny. Coach Michael Bozeman just got the job from Florida Gators. He was the Florida Gators throws coach and decathlete coach. And the argument was I his first recruit or Greg or Andy Hoofenegger was his first recruit. But I had visited Maryland. I was looking at Nebraska and Naval Academy, and he talked to me 5 minutes at the regional meet saying that it's a tough school. It's tough academically, and I can make you a better thrower. And that's all he said. I never took a visit. I just asked for my national letter intent. And first time I saw the schools when my mom dropped me off.
Of course, what was that like, obviously getting to represent the Virginia military as a track and field athlete, especially as a thrower?
It's fun, actually. I mean, I came from Mount Vernon, the days we were winning championships, and we had a culture of own your work, have pride in what you're doing, and that's exactly what VMI is all about. We're a smaller school, but with Michael Bozeman as the head coach and the previous coach, Wade Williams, the program was dominant because of the pride of representing the school and what it took to go to that school. So it made us a little tougher than everybody else.
As an athlete, what was it like getting to compete in those throwing competitions like shot put, javelin, and even disc throwing?
I had a very technical coach in high school as well as college, so it became second nature. Again, the biggest difference was pride and ownership in the training. So it's another day at work or having fun at work.
What was that like, obviously getting to represent the Virginia military and get to put on that uniform?
Pride. You're coming from a small school that represents a little bit more than just a school. You look at what our alumnus do. I mean, we have 15,000 living alumnus, and we could raise $345 million in 2 years. That's more than any other school can say in such a small school as far as attendance.
Of course, after leaving Virginia as an athlete, what was it like getting into coaching and going to James Secondary?
It was great. James Robinson Secondary is an incredible school. 4,000 students, one of the biggest schools in the state. And we had a very good attitude amongst the athletic department. And that is no kid on any of the state championship teams played one sport. Even at Mount Vernon, our smaller school, you had all-met football player Frank Smith and all-met football player John Remishewski, who's in the top 10 in track and field, and Frank Smith is one of the top 10 basketball players. And then at Robinson, we continued that with, I don't think any team that we had at the state championship, more than 80% of those kids played more than one sport. Probably one of the most noted athlete we had at Robinson was Adam Fasnacht. He was an all-state football player, all-state wrestling, all-state lacrosse player, and then he went to UVA to be on UVA's mini NCAA championship lacrosse teams. So it was fun being in a school where athletes could do whatever it took to be happy by playing more sports and still have good grades.
How was that experience like, obviously getting to coach the football team, also the track team while doing that?
Oh, it's the staff was fun. Barry Grodnick, who passed, also coached baseball and some softball. I'm sorry, women's softball, and it was fun when we'd be at coaches meeting, going over films and talking about how we have different kids that could do the same thing. And it's challenging. It's a constant learning experience and helps you understand the art and the science of how to get kids to do certain things, because you work with different kids, different sports, different skill sets. And it helps as a coach. That never stop learning process continues when you coach other sports.
What was that feeling like, getting to come back to your alma mater to become the head coach?
It started off with Bozeman asking me to coach the throwers. I'd applied for James Madison University's grad assistant and realized that that pay cut from a defense contractor was a little too steep for me. He asked if I wanted to coach full time, and I said sure.
Of course, coming to Virginia, what was that like, obviously becoming a throwers coach before taking over as a head coach?
Well, head coach was never my plan. I just enjoyed coaching just a little bit more than defense contracting. The doors open and I applied. So as far as it being different, it's something I've always enjoyed doing. And that's watching the light come on the kid's head when he realizes that, I can be good if I work at something.
Of course, as a throwing coach, what are some of your roles and responsibilities, and how has that been like, obviously seeing those future alumni throw?
It goes back to that ownership part, the pride of being part of something. And that doesn't change in any sport. If you look at most of the best teams, the championship teams, it's not just about the athletic talent. I mean, yes, that's a factor, but when all the players have ownerships, when all the players have pride, all the players are willing to learn and try to get better, that is that one factor that no other team could beat. And that's the teams that get that are the teams that are usually the champions.
Of course, what does a typical match meet look like for throwing?
Track and field is basically a 10-ring circus. There's something going on all the time. The throws usually go first, mainly for safety reasons. Usually start off with the hammer or the weight, then goes on the shot or disc, and then somewhere squeezed in there is a javelin outdoors. It's just something going on all the time, and that's usually the first part of the meet. Then from there, you go on to other events. So for a spectator, track and field is probably the best thing as far as getting an opportunity to see a little bit of everything all day.
What is that like, obviously getting to see those shot putters and those disc throwers?
Oh, it's great. The shot putters are more brute force than the discus throwers, take a little more finesse, and the javelin throwers are more about how much you can stretch your body. And each event has a little skill set that makes that person a little bit different than everyone else.
Of course, during the typical meet, how is it like, obviously balancing, obviously going to the javelin from shot put to disc throwing?
It's a challenge mainly because sometimes they're different locations, but I did it as a throws coach anyways. The events don't usually overlap for scheduling purposes, because meet directors understand that you have coaches, mainly the throws coaches are the only one coach doing multiple events. It also goes true for each event where you have sprints and jumps, and every event there's coaches in many cases working within a certain group.
What are some of the things that you've accomplished so far as a coach for Virginia Military Institution?
Continue that pride factor, help the women's team specifically the throwers, as far as helping them be a better person, understand more of what they can do or what their limits are, which is up to them. I've recruited some of the best, been fortunate enough to find some of the best jumpers as far as pole vaulters, long jumpers. Have been fortunate enough to have coached all the record holders in every event. And Coach Bozeman handed me, when I started the job, the first woman in the Hall of Fame, Mildred Cooper, and also was fortunate enough to be one of the reasons I got selected as USATF Emerging Elite Coach only after 4 years coaching collegiate athletics.
What is that like, obviously getting to coach those women throwers versus obviously coaching those men throwers?
Women, and that's a good question, because when I was coaching football in high school, and Coach Grodnick also said it when coaching women in softball, that football coaches ask, what's the difference coaching the men and women? I had to say us men are kind of stupid. We just follow directions and do what we're told, full speed, no matter what it is. Women, I like coaching because they challenge us. They will not blindly follow you. You either know what you're doing or you don't. They force you to be confident. They force you to know what you're doing. They force you to be more organized. And as a coach, that's, for me, a challenge. It's not an insult. It makes me a better coach. And that's why I like specifically coaching with women, because they just don't blindly follow. Everything has to make sense. And that's what a coach is supposed to do.
Of course, what are some of your coaching accomplishments at Virginia Military?
Like I mentioned earlier, USATF Emerging Elite Coach. I've been fortunate enough to go all the way to level 3, USATF level 5, as far as IAAF. I've been fortunate enough to coach all the women record throwers. Fortunate enough to have recruited the pole vault record thrower, 5 of the top 10 pole vaulters on his team, and just continue to hopefully grow the women's program into a successful program similar to our men's team.
Of course, what is that like? Obviously, as you said, you've recruited multiple people that have set records. What is that like as a coach, seeing them set those records?
Oh, it's great because they believe in themselves. You know, when a kid does well, it's not the coach's fault. When a kid goes bad, that's the coach's fault. Well means they believe, they do the work. I mean, you always give kids the workout, they do the workout, but if they don't believe the workout works and they don't apply it, they don't succeed. And that's your fault. Your job as a coach is to give them the plan. The kids, the athlete's job is to believe in the plan and apply it in competition. They don't call us coaches' names out when they step on the runway or when they step in the circle. They call the athlete's name. And they have to believe when their name is called that they can do it.
How has it been like, obviously, getting to coach some of those throwers that have gone on to go to the NCAA regionals?
Again, good job. They figured it out. That's all you can do, because us all we are as coaches are just cheerleaders. The kids figured it out and they done well. If they don't do well, as coach didn't teach them how to get it. It's that simple.
Who are some of the teams that you face in your competitions on meet day?
Track and field specifically it depends on who comes to the meet. We've faced UVA, we've faced Virginia Tech. We go down to Duke every once in a while. Any given day, it depends on what meet you're on. If you're at the Gamecock meet, you just look at the meets and see who's competed. And you can see anyone from D3 to D1. There's no limits on who you face. Just depends on the meet, what time of the year.
Of course, what is that like, obviously, going against those teams that, obviously, as you said, you can have D1 to all the way to D3 teams in those meets?
It's somewhat of a challenge, but it doesn't matter who you're going against because they can easily scratch 3. You focus on what you need to do, not what someone else is doing. You know, it does. I mean, you step on the track with Bolt, you expect to get beat, but, you know, he might false start. It might not happen, but track and field is about you. It's about what you need to do to succeed. It doesn't matter who's on the track or who's in the circle with you, because if you don't do the right things, you're going to lose. So the best thing to do is focus on yourself.
Of course, as a coach, what is that like? Obviously, coaching against some of those teams like Duke, who's a Division I team, versus coaching, let's say, a Division II or NIA team.
It's the same thing. If our kids don't do the right thing, they get beat. If our kids do the right thing, then they beat them. It's tougher when you're looking at a Duke versus a D3 team because of the fact that they'll recruit athletes that will start in many cases faster or throwing further than your athlete. But again, they can easily false start. They can easily scratch 3 attempts. So you don't look at who you're competing against. You look at what you need to do to perform. And just like any other sport, any given day, somebody can beat somebody.
Of course, for the throwers, what are some of the things that you look at during the recruiting process in them?
First thing is do they have the grades? It doesn't matter what school you go to or how good you are. If you don't have the grades to get in, then the process ends. Next thing is the attitude. I like to be the fly on the wall. See how they interact with their teammates. See how they interact with their parents during competition, if they do interact with their parents during competition. The biggest thing is what type of person they are, And the next step is okay, how well do they do under pressure? What meets have they gone to? And did they do what they needed to do to perform?
Of course, what does the official visit look like when they get to come to Virginia Military?
We usually bring them in. They spend a night we'll have a dinner. They'll spend a night. We'll show them professors in the major. They'll get to talk to admissions. The biggest thing is giving them an idea of what the school is like. Meet the team to see if they fit. That's probably the biggest thing. If they don't get along with the teammates, it doesn't matter if they don't feel like they fit in the system. And the last thing we do is sit down and talk to them and ask them if there are any questions. We leave them alone with professors. We leave them alone with our students. The biggest thing is they get the feeling that nothing's hidden from them. The internet makes it impossible not to let them see the good, the bad, and the ugly of any school. But more important is giving them the opportunity to get the information themselves.
Of course, as a head coach and a throwing coach, what is it like, obviously, getting to see them put on that uniform, that red and black uniform that you put on as an athlete?
Pride and hope that they understand that we only ask them to do their best.
Of course, what are some of your future plans moving forward in the program?
Trying to build that sense of ownership and pride in the program. Take advantage of the opportunity beyond track and field this school provides, and believe in the opportunities that, there are no limits. And that's kind of a tough thing to do with a whole new coaching staff, but that's the key, I feel, is ownership and pride in the school and belief in yourself.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you started to build for the program?
That's it. The ownership of all your actions down in the track and field facility, as well as up on the hill as a cadet.
Of course, what advice would you give those high school athletes that are looking to get into college track and field?
Do their homework, find the schools, ask these questions. How far do you want to be away from home? That's in-state or out of state. Does school size matter? I mean, our school, you have no class size bigger than 25. Does it matter that your school's in a city or not? American University is completely different than a VMI, where American University is in the middle of Washington, D.C., and VMI is in the middle of Rockbridge County. And then after you've figured out what you're looking for in a school, contact the coaches. Say, hey, I'm interested in your school. This is what I do. What do I need to do to be a member of your team? And the sooner you do that, the better. And then take a visit, open houses. Every college offers open house, and find out, is this a school for me? Before you start making official visits, because official visits, you only get 5.
What advice would you give those college freshmen that are entering their freshman year?
find a way to survive. And that's not just VMI. You're recruited on the pretenses that you are capable of doing everything you did in high school. Us coaches realize that you have to adjust. Take the good, the bad, and the ugly and learn. That's all you can do as a freshman. And, have a short memory. Bad days happen, but learn from those bad days. Good days happen, learn from those good days.
Of course, as a throwing coach and a head coach, what is it like obviously seeing those players go on and represent the U.S. or Team Canada in the Olympics?
I haven't had that opportunity yet. That's something every coach in any sport hope to have. And I've just been happy with the great success as far as out in the civilian world, as well as the military world that our cadets have had. So for right now, I'm just happy with the multimillionaires after 5 years and the majors and lieutenant colonels after 10 years in the military. And that's almost as much an accomplishment as being a member or representing the USA or Canada at the Olympic Games.
What advice would you give those athletes that are in college that are looking to represent a national team like Team Canada or Team USA?
Find yourself a coach, a program, and work hard. Become a student of your event. Work with your coach, and right place at the right time. But you got to be prepared to put in a lot of sweat equity and understand what you need to do to be the best.
What advice would you give those assistant coaches that are looking to get into track and field, especially on the throwing side?
Same thing. Do your homework. USATF offers plenty of clinics. United States Track and Field Cross Country Coaches Association offer clinics. The knowledge is out. It's not like it doesn't exist. You got area to throws. You got Ironwood. You got Garage Strength. You got Didier Pope on internet. There's tons of information on how to make kids bigger, stronger, faster, and the technical aspect of throwing. So if you're willing to do the homework, then next you have to find the kids that are willing to believe in you.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find VMI on Instagram, on social media?
It's VMI Track and Field on Instagram. We're on Facebook, VMI Athletics. And I'm sorry I don't have any other places. We're also on Twitter, but I don't have a Twitter feed right now on the top of my head.
Thank you again, Coach David Scott, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the VMI head coach / throwing coach.
Thank you, Brandon. You have a good day.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach David Scott, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.